If your garden soil still feels hard, dry, and tired, even after you have added compost, you are not alone. A lot of gardeners run into this. They keep feeding the soil from the top, but nothing really changes underneath. The plants stay weak. The roots struggle. Water runs off or dries out too fast. And after a while, it feels like the whole bed is just worn out. But here is the part most people miss. The problem may not be a lack of nutrients. It may be a lack of life. Living soil needs movement, moisture, air, microbes, and earthworms working quietly below the surface. And the good news is, you do not have to buy worms or wait for years. If you bury the right material in the right way, you can create a place they want to come back to. Earthworms are not just a nice sign that your soil is healthy. They are one of the reasons soil becomes healthy in the first place. When they move through the ground, they make small tunnels. Those tunnels let air get in, help water move down, and give plant roots an easier path to grow. That matters a lot, especially in hard or compacted soil. Worms also turn old leaves, paper, cardboard, and soft organic matter into rich castings. That is basically natural plant food, made right where the roots need it. But it is not just about nutrients. Their castings also bring helpful microbes into the soil. Over time, this changes the whole feel of the bed. The soil gets darker, it breaks apart easier, it holds moisture better. Fertilizer may feed the plant for a short time, but worms help rebuild the soil itself. Earthworms do not usually disappear for no reason. Most of the time, the garden slowly becomes a place they do not want to live in. If the soil is tilled too often, their tunnels get destroyed. If the ground is left bare, the sun heats it up and dries it out. If the soil keeps going from wet to bone dry, worms move away or go deeper where they are harder to find. Strong fertilizers, salts, and harsh products can also weaken the tiny microbial life that worms depend on. And once that food web gets damaged, the worms have less reason to stay. They are not looking for perfect soil. They are looking for steady conditions, cool soil, moist soil, food that breaks down slowly. A place where they can feed, hide, and reproduce without being disturbed every few days. The best thing you can bury for worms is not fancy at all. It can be soaked cardboard, shredded paper, old leaves, or soft plant material that has already started to break down. But plain cardboard is one of the easiest and strongest choices. I mean the simple brown kind, without shiny coating or heavy ink. Once it is soaked, it holds moisture like a sponge. That is exactly what worms love. It also breaks down slowly, so it does not disappear in a few days. Underground, that wet cardboard creates a dark, cool, protected pocket. It is a little like the layer of old bark and leaves you would find on a forest floor. Microbes move in first. Then worms follow. They are not just coming for the cardboard itself. They are coming for the life that starts growing on it. That is why this works so well in tired garden beds. Depth matters more than most people think. If you bury the material too deep, there is not enough oxygen, and everything slows down. The cardboard may just sit there, wet and heavy, without turning into real food for the soil. But if you leave it on top, the sun and wind dry it out too fast. Worms do not like that either. The sweet spot is about 4 to 6 inches below the surface. That is deep enough to stay moist and protected, but still shallow enough for air and microbes to do their job. Just dig a small trench or pocket in the bed. Lay the soaked cardboard or plant material flat, not balled up. Cover it back with the soil you removed. Then water the area gently. You are not burying trash. You are building a small underground feeding zone. Dry cardboard does not call worms in. In fact, Dry material can do the opposite. It pulls moisture from the soil and sits there like a dead layer. Worms need moisture to breathe, move, and feed. So before you bury cardboard, paper, or leaves, soak them well. They should feel heavy and soft, not stiff and dry. Plain water is fine, but you can give the process a stronger start by using compost water. Mix a little finished compost or worm castings into a bucket of water, stir it around, and let it sit for a short while. Then use that water to soak the cardboard. This helps cover the material with good microbes from the beginning. And once those microbes start working, worms notice. They follow the smell of life underground. Once that wet cardboard or soft plant material is buried, the first thing that shows up is not the worms. It is the tiny life you cannot see. Bacteria and fungi start moving in and breaking the material down. That is when the whole area begins to change. The buried spot becomes damp, dark, and full of microbial activity, and that is what worms are really looking for. They are not chewing dry cardboard like a snack. They are feeding on the microbes growing around it. As they move through that zone, they open small tunnels in the soil. They leave behind castings that are rich and crumbly. If the conditions stay moist and calm, they may also lay cocoons there. Over a few weeks, that one buried pocket can start spreading life outward, little by little, through the whole bed. There is a big difference between attracting a few worms and building a real worm population. If you toss food or compost on the surface, worms may come up for a little while, especially at night or after rain. But once the surface dries out, they go back down or move away. That is why the buried method works better. It gives them food, moisture, and shelter all in one place. Underground, they are protected from sun, heat, birds, and drying wind. They can feed without being disturbed. They can move safe, and when they find a steady place like that, they have a reason to stay. Over time, they do more than visit. They begin to reproduce. Then, as the material slowly breaks down, they spread into the surrounding soil and carry that fertility with them. You do not need to do this every day. In fact, doing too much in one spot can make the soil messy and unbalanced. For a regular vegetable bed, repeat the method every 4 to 6 weeks, but choose a different area each time. Think of it like building small worm stations across the garden. One pocket feeds one section, then the next pocket feeds another. By the end of the season, the whole bed starts to connect through worm tunnels. For fruit trees, berries, or perennial plants, once per season is usually enough. Bury the material around the drip line, where the outer branches reach. That is where many active feeder roots are working underground. Burying the material is a strong start, but mulch is what helps keep the whole thing working. Worms do not like hot, dry soil. They need coolness, moisture, and cover. A simple layer of mulch does that. You can use dry leaves, straw, or wood chips. Spread it about 2 to 4 inches thick over the bed. Not piled too heavy, just enough to shade the soil and slow down evaporation. This makes a huge difference, especially in summer. The buried cardboard stays moist longer. The soil temperature stays steadier, and worms feel safer moving through the area. At night, they can come closer to the surface to feed. During the day, they can slip back down. Mulch turns that buried feeding pocket into a protected worm highway. This method is simple, but a few mistakes can ruin it fast. The first one is burying the material too deep. If there is not enough air, the microbes slow down and worms will not be interested. Another mistake is using salty, oily, or greasy kitchen scraps. Worms do not want that. It can make the soil smell bad and push them away. Dry soil is another big problem. If the ground dries out, worm activity drops quickly. They may stop feeding, stop reproducing, or leave the area. Tilling too often is also a mistake. Every time you turn the soil, you break their tunnels and can destroy their cocoons. Also, avoid shiny cardboard, colored paper, or anything treated with chemicals. Keep it plain, keep it moist, keep the soil calm. That is how worms settle in. Compost is useful, no question. It adds organic matter and improves the nutrient side of the soil. But compost alone does not always fix hard, lifeless ground. That is because the soil also needs structure and biology. This is where worms do something different. When you feed them underground, they work right where the roots are trying to grow. They tunnel through compacted soil. They pull organic matter deeper. They turn that buried food into rich castings close to the root zone. So instead of just spreading compost on top and hoping it works its way down, you are creating activity below the surface. The soil starts changing from the inside. It gets looser, darker, and more alive. That is why this method can feel faster and more lasting. You do not need to buy earthworms to bring life back into your soil. Most of the time, you just need to give them a reason to return. Give them food that breaks down slowly. Give them steady moisture. Give them a cool, protected place where they can feed and move without being disturbed. Once they feel safe, they do the work quietly underground. They tunnel, they multiply, they leave behind rich castings, and little by little, tired dirt starts turning back into living soil. If this helped you see your garden in a new way, please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to Quiet Growth Lab. Thank you for watching, and thank you for growing with us.